Yo, it's Shorty.
Hi, I'm Nicole.
Welcome to Shorty Speed Shop's official podcast, Shorty Shop Talk, Episode 1. Today, we're going to talk about changing the industry. We're also going to talk about which cars are coming and going in the industry, new models that are leaving us, saying goodbye, and we're going to talk about some local events to the Bishop area for the local people that are tuning into the podcast. A little introduction again. I'm Rob. Shorty, this is my lovely wife and assistant, Nicole. I started out in the automotive industry. I took 4 years of high school auto shop, went to Universal Tech directly after that. Been working in the industry for over 20 years. I've worked on everything from cars to school buses to transit buses to semi-trucks, doing research and development type work with engineers at Daimler Trucks in North America. And then Nicole and I got the lovely opportunity in 2020 to move back here to Bishop, California and run our own shop.
Yeah, that was exciting. As if 2020 wasn't exciting enough for you already.
Yeah, it wasn't exciting enough.
Let's add a 750-mile move and, other things to that.
Yeah, it was quite chaotic, but we handled it, right?
Yeah, we handled it.
All right.
We can talk about my background a little bit.
We're going to talk about your background next. So why don't you fill us in on your background?
Yeah, so I started out in customer service and hospitality at a pretty young age. My parents own a campground and restaurant in Washington State near Mount St. Helens, and I helped out in and out of there from, being a young teen. And then as an adult, I, ran the restaurant in the summer. And after that, I went to school for medical billing and coding, worked in customer service again with medical sort of don't really need to explain it, but anyway, I did customer service there, and then I ended up at Farmers Insurance doing agent support there for about 5 years, and then I ran our photo business from home for a couple years, Shorty Me short photography, which we still do hobby level, and then, here we are.
Yeah, it's been a fun adventure to get here, but the two of us put together with customer service and mechanical skills, we make one hell of a team, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think our customers would say so as well. And we're hoping to share that with everybody else at this point. So that's part of the purpose of this. Our main goals with this podcast are to help be a drop in the big bucket of change in the automotive repair industry. It's been plagued with all kinds of different issues. We'll talk about those issues throughout the podcast. Going forward throughout the podcast, all of the episodes, we'll try to touch on how we can be better technicians, how we can be better service writers, shop owners, and even better customers, trying to help out the customers have a better experience as well. So that's sort of our overall goal, is just to make the automotive repair industry a better place overall for everybody, a better experience when you have to have your car fixed. It's never fun to have your car fixed. When it breaks down, you also, on a side note, are an unofficial therapist in our office. Because normally when somebody's car breaks down, it's a low point. It's an expensive repair. You get stuck. You're traveling. It puts a big stick in your plans. It's never fun when your car breaks down. It screws up your day, screws up your week, your plans, your finances. Everything you had planned can all of a sudden have to do a complete 180. So,
yeah, my education background, I went to college for just general educational studies, and then I minored in educational psychology. So I feel like with that background, it really helps when we spend time educating our customers on, what their car needs or what's going on with their car. The psychology portion obviously helps with working through troubles and sticky points in those issues. Mm-hmm. And I think that segues us pretty decently into how we work with our customers in that communication and education sort of arena.
Yep. Yeah, and we're definitely going to dive further into that. Communication and education. Those are some key words that you're going to continue to hear throughout the future of this podcast. We're going to talk a lot about that. So to dive right in and open that big can of stinky worms, bad mechanics, rip-offs, we've all heard these terms. You can't find a good tech. Why? Why is that? We're going to dive right into that. It essentially started way back in the day when we used to have full-service gas stations. At least to my knowledge. If anybody else out there has more information on this, I'd love to be educated further. This is just sort of my take on it and my experience with this and how I've sort of figured out where this whole dynamic started. But you roll into the gas station. Some of us will remember, some won't. You roll into the gas station, you roll over that little wire that's on the ground, you hear the ding ding, and the little guy comes out from inside. He washes your windshield, fills up your gas tank. You pop the hood for him. He'll check your oil, lets you know if he sees anything, and hopefully you go on your way. Well, that at some point got really toxic. I'm not old enough to remember how pushy those guys were or exactly what switch flipped, but all of a sudden, I've heard horror stories that these guys were coming out with a hidden razor blade and poking holes in radiator hoses and slitting serpentine belts to try to upsell work. And that's obviously super, super, super shady. I mean, who wants to deal with that? That's not right to treat somebody like that. You're on a road trip and all of a sudden you're at a gas station, everything's been humming along just great. And all of a sudden the guy's like, oh, well, you need a serpentine belt. That'll be $49.99. You know, again, that puts a monkey wrench in your plans for your trip. And it's dishonest.
Yeah.
And then things got more expensive. We've all experienced that, especially recently, how things have just gotten more expensive. And people were sort of trying to find ways to save money. And I think shops were recommending a lot of work, your general maintenance. And they're figuring out, hey, I don't really need to drain my diff every 20 or 30,000 miles. I can extend that. That's kind of a ripoff. Oh, do I really need to change my spark plugs? It's not misfiring yet. Why do I need to change my spark plugs? Why are they recommending $1,000 worth of work? All I want is my oil changed.
Well, I have to wonder if some of it is over time with the vehicle technology advancing, if things like that have gotten less forgiving. It's like, we see the difference in the Subarus we work on versus the Toyotas we work on, how long, how the longevity of those fluids last in even one manufacturer versus another in something as simple as a differential. I feel like older trucks, your older, 60s and 70s Chevys and Fords, I don't feel like they were very picky. They were really forgiving. They didn't have the tight tolerances in the engine that we have today for fuel economy. There weren't technologies like that yet. So you could do less, or you could do a lot more yourself and not feel like you had to spend a lot of money at a shop.
Yes. And another aspect to it is I think people didn't used to drive as much as they do today.
Yeah.
We've always been car centric here in America, Detroit, Motor City. This is what built America. A big portion of what America is built off of is the automotive industry. And that's obviously changed throughout time in many different ways. And people, of course, they rely on their cars, and they've driven them more and more and more as time has gone on. People are packing the miles on. I think we're up to, I'd have to double check this, but I think we're up to average yearly driving is up to 12,000 miles. I don't think they were doing that in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, I think we were seeing closer to 13,000 last time we looked it up. And I have to wonder if you look at like pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, because I feel like a lot of people figured out, hey, I can't be inside with a whole bunch of people, but I can go outside and enjoy the outdoors. And usually driving is involved with getting out of the city.
Yes.
So I wonder if, just people discovering what else they can do outside the city really drove those numbers up. And I wonder if it'll go back down, again. I don't know.
Time will tell, but people are still loving their cars here in America. So, I want to get into some of the dynamics today that continue this stigma of bad techs, bad service, what it includes and why sort of it exists. We have two different types of businesses in this industry that we see, two major types. There's other subtypes, but there's not much point in going into those. We have transaction-based and relationship-based businesses. Transaction-based is like your quick lubes. I'm not going to name any names, but think of your quick lube places. They want the car to come in. They want the service to be done quick. They want that car to leave, and they want the next customer to fall right into space.
There's a time and place. A lot of customers are looking for that service too. So it's not just on the side of the business. It's
I'm absolutely not here to badmouth it. That's not my purpose.
No, I'm just clarifying.
There is a place and a time for that, but it's an important aspect that we have to talk about in the industry, how transaction-based businesses create toxic habits and really sort of dehumanize the customer in a way. Relationship-based is where you have a relationship with the customer, you know them, they feel at home. They're treated more like family, and that business is relying on that customer coming back throughout the history of them and their car ownership to that shop for all of the services and all of the repairs. You're banking on that customer coming back to you, and that obviously takes a lot more effort. So it requires more effort, which is why I think a lot of places don't do it.
Yeah. Well, we spend a lot of time. I mean, I'd say on average, we probably spend 20 to 30 minutes per customer going over work orders minimum.
Oh yeah, for an oil change, one of
yeah.
our oil change inspection reports, it takes us 20 minutes. Easy 20
Yeah.
minutes.
And that's just not feasible for every shop.
Well, yeah, especially in a
Yeah.
big corporate type setting, they're not
Yeah.
going to want to spend that kind of time with the customer. And there's a time and a place. When you're
Yeah.
on the road, you just need an oil change and you need to get on your way. You've
Yeah.
got a meeting or something like that. The city life is kind of do this like, hey, I need to get my oil change. I'm a month overdue. I can do it on my lunch. I'll eat my
Yeah.
sandwich while I get my oil change.
Yeah,
Time and a place
exactly.
completely for that.
When I was working in the city, that's what I would do. There's a car wash and a quick lube place really close to my work. I
Exactly.
could do it all on my lunch. I could pick up fast food on the way, get my oil changed or get my car washed while I'm eating lunch in the car, and I could head back to work. I mean, it's kind of the state we're living in currently here.
Yeah. The other thing with transaction-based business, when your bottom line is car count, it pressures the service writers to not upsell work because they want the car in and out. Occasionally they'll upsell, but it's normally pretty quick things, not bigger services. I know the industry sort of changed a little bit. Jiffy Lube started doing transmission flushes and a bunch of other
Yeah,
stuff.
radiator flushes. I remember that.
Yeah, they figured out, oh, hey, there's money there. We can do that too, instead of just oil change, oil change, oil change, oil change. And they started
Wiper
including
blades,
wiper
things
blades.
like that. Yeah.
But it devalues the customer when you treat them like a number. I mean, we've all experienced being treated like a number. And
It's usually a more corporate setting.
normally, yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody likes that. Hello, is anybody out there like being treated like a number? I don't think so. Please let me know. If you if you like being treated like a number, let me know, because that's strange. And I'd like to talk more about that. I'm intrigued by that dynamic, if it exists, if it does actually exist. It also pressures the mechanic, the technician, to take shortcuts, to not look at things as thoroughly, not necessarily hack work, but just quicker work. They're not taking their time. Meticulous is a good word for this.
Yeah.
They're not being as meticulous with the car as they could be.
Well, you can't make flat rate if you're being meticulous.
That's exactly where I was going. It's
Yeah.
very difficult. I won't say you can't, because there are some really high quality flat rate techs
It's
that
more
are
difficult too.
It's definitely more difficult. There's definitely flat rate techs that are pretty meticulous. It's amazing how fast I've seen some guys work. I'm like, holy cow, that's some really clean work. And you did that insanely quick. How?
Yeah, I'd say it's not your average person to have that ability.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Which is why there's such a technician shortage out there. This is not for everybody. It's a difficult industry to be in, and we've learned that. I've known it for a while. You've definitely learned it. And we've experienced as newer shop owners exactly how difficult owning a shop is, not just working on a car. This is where your customer services really come in on top of everything. Sort of tied everything together in this nice little bundle for us. I'll use a good example of transaction versus relationship based. Just using a Subaru, we all know they have leaky head gaskets on the older EJ25 engines, and they leak oil. They don't bust the gasket. More often than not, they don't bust a gasket in between a coolant passage and an oil passage or the combustion chamber. It's an external oil leak from one of the oil passages, breaks through and starts leaking oil externally. So it doesn't affect how it runs. It's just an oil leak as far as the customer is concerned. Transaction based, the tech might not even see it. He's just changing oil. Why is he looking at the back of the head? It's kind of in a difficult, tight spot to see. If he's not told to do a thorough inspection, chances are the tech's not even going to see it, unless it's making a huge mess. And even then, I have seen so many techs that where the car is just this horrible mess with oil all over the place. It's got multiple oil leaks, and nothing gets said. Straight oil change, out the door, gone.
Well, with the underskirting, a lot of times it hides a lot of stuff.
It does.
In most cars, you don't have to take that off to do the oil change, but some you do. Some we luck out during, at a quick glance, we can see something else is going on.
But again, the transaction-based, they might not even see it. And then the service writer is pressured to not upsell something like that because it could scare the customer off completely. Oh, hey, we changed your oil. We noticed you're due for your 30K, but you also have a leaking head gasket. The chances are high that the customer is going to walk away from that. If you give them a big repair, a big bottom line. They come in for an oil change and all of a sudden it's turning into $1,000 repair. That's when people start to freak out. And that's when most shops shy away from that. A head gasket's about a $4,000 repair. Your 30, 60, 90 Ks average anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500, maybe upwards of $1,800. So the transaction-based business is sort of scared of telling the customer that for fear of them losing even the 30, 60 K, because all of a sudden they have this big scary list and a big number attached to it with a lot of zeros, and they're scared the customer's going to walk away from all of it and they won't get any of it. Relationship-based business, we take the time to explain to the customer what we saw, all of our findings, give them the report, explain to them, hey, it's an external oil leak. It's not that bad yet. You can ride this out a little bit. And then that informs them and empowers them. They now have this information and they're basing their decision, their repair decision, off of their financial needs, which we don't know. We don't know their financial situation at all. It allows them that information, gives them that information, and allows them to be empowered to make their own decision on what's best for them, their life, their finances, and their car. Because we don't know. And when you empower your customer that way, you gain a customer for life. They don't feel placated. They don't feel like a number. They feel like part of the family. It establishes that trust. But it is initially a small gamble. Because, yeah, you're probably likely, especially on an older Subaru, let's just say it's a 98 Forester, who's going to put $4,000 into a head gasket and service both of the differentials and the transmission and brake fluid and power steering fluid for $1,800.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people are going to walk away from the car at that point. And it takes a level of trust that you allow that customer to walk away, to make that decision, walk away. You don't pressure them. You don't push this on them. You let them make the decision based off the information you've given them. And you hope that they come back. And more often than not, in our experience, almost every single time, that right there buys us the customer. So we'll give up a service just to buy the customer.
Are you hungry for a fiesta of flavors? Head over to Astorga's Mexican Restaurant in Bishop. Experience authentic Mexican cuisine from sizzling fajitas and cheesy enchiladas to our famous tacos and fresh guacamole. Bring your friends and family for a vibrant dining experience with warm hospitality. Astorga's Mexican Restaurant, where every meal is a celebration. Visit us today at 2201 North Sierra Highway or call 760-873-7156 to place an order. Online orders preferred at astorgasmexicanrestaurant.com.
Well, and one thing that we do that the previous owner set up with that we've kind of carried on and adopted in our own way that sets this precedence when people call as a new customer is we talk to them about doing an inspection first.
Yes.
So we don't just book them for an oil change. We say, hey, yes, we'd love to do an oil change, but we also check all of these things too. We give you a full report. You know, if you have over 60,000 miles, we pull a spark plug, we check codes, we take it for a test drive.
Absolutely.
You know, and we kind of give people an amount. At least when I talk to them on the phone, I go through all of this, tell them how much it will be. And so they know kind of going in that we're setting this precedence, that we communicate, we provide a lot of data for the money, and this is the type of service that they're going to get going forward. I can also tell just from working with people who wants this kind of and who doesn't.
Oh yeah, you can
Typically,
qualify a customer pretty quickly.
I can tell when people are just really wanting an in and out oil change, and unfortunately with our schedule, we can't accommodate that. But I think that's where that communication comes in, is setting that precedence that this is how we do things. Because I think a lot of shops, what they might really struggle with is figuring out how to set that precedence that this is how we work from that initial visit.
Yeah.
It's kind of intimidating.
Well, you have to be okay with firing customers and understanding that not every customer is for your business plan.
Yeah.
There is no business plan out there, folks. Shop owners, are you paying attention? There's no business plan that pleases every single customer. Find the customers that work best for you and your team and hone in that process on your customers. Don't worry about the ones that's not going to work. You're spending too much time and effort on them, and it hurts the whole team when you do that. You get cars in that are just a wreck, customers that end up not wanting to pay. You have upsets and explosions in the shop. I mean, in 3 years of running the shop, knock on wood, we've had very little controversy or issues with our customers. Of course, we've had to deliver lots of bad news. It normally goes really well because we've taken the time to work with people. We've built that relationship. We've empowered them. They make the decision.
Yeah.
The customer's not going to be mad at you if they make the decision, right?
Yeah.
So empower your customers, allow them to make the decision.
Well,
and
that's
show
why
them,
we do the inspection every
Yeah.
time. We do that initial inspection, and with every oil change, we check so much because it gives them that data every single visit, and they know when something is due, or they know way ahead of time if they have a large fix coming.
Yeah.
It's something we can watch, like an oil leak.
Yeah,
You know?
well, and everything that we recommend, we sell. Like, we have a 80 to 90% closing rate on all of our recommendations. Like, we do the 300% rule. We inspect 100% of the vehicles that come in. We recommend 100% of the work, and then we push out the rest of the work that we didn't sell to the next service. That's the 300% rule. It's a very good rule. Personally, I think almost every shop should be running it, and it works. And again, you're empowering your customers. It's so important.
Yeah, well, that's where that education component comes in, because we want you to understand. Like, we take a lot of time to show customers things. We take photos and show them in the office. We take fluid samples. Like, if you have a fluid that looks really nasty and we want to say, hey, this likely is happening, we can see a lot of metal in your differential fluid, this is potentially going to become an issue. You know, we can physically, we spend the time to show you. And I know a lot of shops can't feasibly take that time, but I think it's very beneficial to gaining trust, and because it's real. I mean, that communication, that data, that visibly seeing that fluid in front of you is so real. Like,
Yeah.
I remember
They
experience.
can see why it needs to be changed.
Yeah,
And when you have that report, sorry, I'll let you
yeah,
finish in just a second. I wanted to touch on this real quick, though. When your brakes are due, you've known for about how many oil changes? I mean, 3 millimeters is when we start recommending it. How many more oil changes do people normally get before then?
after
Before
3 mil,
at 3 mil, before we really have to change it, before it gets into the rotors.
maybe 1 or 2 with 3
They've got a
mil.
couple
Depends if
more.
it's on the front or rear, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Front or
Yeah.
rear changes things,
And if
obviously.
it's a manual transmission, it changes
That also
things.
changes things, but they still have 1 or 2 more oil changes. They don't have to do the brakes right then and now. We're not worried about it because we know our customer is going to come back to us. We trust them. They trust us. They're not going to be a be back. They will be back, and we'll take care of it. And they're not surprised. They've known. We've started telling them at 5 and 4 millimeter, hey, your brakes are in the yellow zone. They started at 10. They're now at 5 millimeters. We recommend them at 3. You've got probably 3 more oil changes before we recommend brakes. And the customer can start saving. So when you tell them, hey, your brakes are at 3 millimeters, let's schedule that for the next oil change. You have that much time. The customer's already saved up. They were expecting it. It's not a surprise. So financially they're set. Emotionally they're set. Mentally they're set. And we sell the brake job.
Yeah.
No problems. Customer drives away happy. They made the decision. They were expecting it. We provided a service and we collected a paycheck for it. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think more shops need to realize and invest in their customers in that way.
Yeah.
I think they'd see the benefit.
A lot of the times what I do when I talk to a customer and go through the report with them is if they're at like 4 mil or so or less, and I know they have a few oil changes, but I'm not sure how many, I say, hey, this is about how much it'll be. I give them an estimate, and I say, I'll get, since we only are doing Subaru, it's really easy for me to say, I'll just get these brake pads in stock, and if you don't need them next time, they'll just be on the shelf, and we'll do them the time after. But if you do need them next time, I already have them. You just add them on, it'll be a little bit more time, and it'll be this much money.
Yep.
So they know that, you know, it's not a big deal. Like,
Yep.
but the experience I was going to touch on is, I remember having experience at, you know, one of our corporate American tire chains that you go in and you had uneven brake wear and they recommend calipers. Like, I think that's a great way of like not gaining trust and not showing somebody something. Like, we can physically show people where how we've measured their brakes and like where on the, you know, the little tab, you know, how much actual brake pad is left, and physically, like if their rotors are like have some really bad grooves in them or something, we can show them the unusual wear. We can show them the issues. But at one of these nationwide chains, they're not going to, liability wise, they're probably not going to show you as much.
Yeah, that's why
Or
they've
have
started
the time.
implementing the video inspections. A lot
Yeah.
of places are doing the video inspections.
That is a
I'm
really good thing.
big
I'm
fan
glad
of
they're doing that. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, luckily at the time I was young enough, I was with my dad. He was sort of like, I don't think that's necessary, because like what we do, we've learned that you need to grease the caliper slide pins, and that takes care of the uneven wear usually.
Yeah,
it's not usually calipers.
We're lucky we don't live in the Rust Belt.
Yeah.
So for all the
That
Rust
changes
Belt
things.
techs out there, I'm sorry you have to deal with this. Calipers
Yeah.
do seize up. They absolutely do.
Yeah.
They get so rusty and just nasty that they seize up. But yeah,
Yeah,
you
just
got to
not
grease
so
the
much
slide
on the
pins
West
more
Coast.
often than not in the Rust Belt. You clean up the corrosion off the slide pins, put a nice little layer
Mm-hmm.
of grease on there, make sure it operates fine, and your uneven brake wear repairs itself.
Mm-hmm.
You're back to normal. They're really similar from inner to outer pad, and it's good to go.
Yeah, calipers aren't cheap if
No.
you don't need them.
So
Yeah.
I remember specifically on your rodeo when we took it to one of the corporate places, they're like, hey, your brakes are done. You need rotors and you need 2 calipers. And it was like almost a $2,000 bill or whatnot.
Yeah.
I took a look at it. We greased the slide pins. The rotors were fine. They had a little wear, but this was our own choice. We didn't throw rotors on it. We just pad slapped it. We knew it was going to wear the pads out a little bit more because the rotors had
Yeah.
some uneven wear. But again, this was our choice. We pad slapped it. I greased the slide pins, and it was good to
Yeah,
go. We
it was
didn't need
fine.
calipers. Just
Yeah.
clean them up, squeeze them a little bit, and they started manipulating just fine. And we never had any issues with that car. So
Yeah, here on the West Coast, at least, we have not had to replace one set of calipers yet.
nope. Especially if people keep coming back to us and we maintain their car properly, that's not something. And we felt blindsided.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and we measure the brake pads on the inside and outside too. So if we were starting to see a car that had really unusual wear and it was an issue, then maybe we would tell them, hey, we should do a little bit of labor time to grease the slide pins, and hopefully this will buy you a little bit more time before we have to do the pads.
Yeah.
So that's another great thing about the inspections too, is you have that data that we can help them with little things too before it gets to a point where it's inevitable.
Yeah, no, we believe in empowering the customers with education and information. You educate them, you give them the information, that empowers them to make their own decision, and everybody's happy across the board. It's a win-win for everybody. And that is a big first step in how we fix this industry, how we start making strides in this industry, is how we talk to our customers, how we empower them, how we educate them, and inform them. Those are all key points. Again, this is going to be a segment that we continue to come back. It's been called changing the industry. I like to say repairing the repair industry, just for a little change, not to be a copycat, do my own thing here. So yeah, repairing the repair industry. We'll touch on this almost every single time. This was a long one for this segment, but we'll always do this. This is going to be one of the main goals of this podcast, is to help fix this industry and make some big changes. We're also going to get into automotive news. I think we should do that one next.
Yeah. Go for
Okay.
it.
So this time around in automotive news, there's a lot. It's that time of season where manufacturers are bringing in the new model years, debuting their cars, getting rid of some of the old ones, giving us all that news. So I'm going to run through some of the lists of things that I know are going. Some are staying. Some of this is older news. I'm sure a lot of you guys have already heard of this, but I'm just sort of recapping for those that aren't totally in the know of it all. If you know, great. If not, this is for you. So Subaru, since we're a Subaru shop, first things first, the Legacy is going away for after the 2025 model year. No more Subaru Legacy. Gone.
I can't say I'm too surprised.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's probably one of their least popular cars, especially if they started catering to more of like the overlanding wilderness edition.
Everything's getting
Yeah.
bigger. The Legacy sort of stayed smaller.
Well, I think people are really liking to use their Subarus off road. Like,
Yes.
The Legacy doesn't really fit the bill for that.
Yeah, well, they sort of marketed themselves out of that model
Yeah.
in a way. Also, no more Chevy Camaro, at least the turbo version of the Chevy Camaro. The Ford Escape, bye-bye. No more Escape.
Oh, darn.
And the Edge, Ford Edge, is also going away. I've got down that the Nissan Titan and the Maxima.
Oh, interesting. So, well, I wonder if they couldn't quite follow Toyota's suit with the twin turbo V6. For the Titan, they didn't want to get rid of their flagship V8.
I'm not quite sure on that. The Titan is a bigger truck, and that
Yeah.
seems to be the way things are going, so I'm not quite sure the reason for the decision on it. If anybody's got insight, comments, please
Maybe
let
they're
me
just
know.
going to rebrand into a hybrid.
It's
different
entirely
name.
possible. Yeah, turn it hybrid and make it a different name. The Chrysler 300, staying with
darn.
Dodge. Dodge is, no darn. There's some neat 300s.
No,
I'm
that
not
wasn't sarcasm. I actually like the Chrysler 300.
It's kind of a cool car.
They're kind of like your fake, what is it, Bentley?
Kind of.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they're nice and comfy. They're fast,
Yeah. Dodge is also killing the Challenger, the Charger, and the Hellcat models.
Whoa.
Bye-bye.
Finally, those lawsuits caught up.
EPA was not liking them putting out 8,000-9,000 horsepower factory cars. They definitely got slapped for that a few times.
8,000 horsepower car?
800. Did I say 8,000?
Yeah, I'm like,
okay.
I don't think that's a thing.
Okay, all of a sudden we got into top fuel there for a
Yeah.
second. 800 horsepower.
Really burning tires.
Right? The Kia Stinger.
Oh.
I'm not a big Kia fan, but that one makes me kind of sad that the Stinger's going. It's a neat platform. Audi TT, yeah, that was a little old and tired. Kind of a neat model, but okay. The R8.
That's really sad.
That's
I remember
sad.
reading that one. And
R8 is such a great car.
Yeah.
It really is. I'm sad to see that one go, but we'll see where Audi goes from here.
Well,
Who
maybe
knows?
they're going to do like more of a all electric sort of nod to Tesla supercar feel, because that's what the R8 was. It's kind of like that nod to supercar.
Pseudo supercar.
Yeah.
Nissan is also killing off the Altima and the Versa in 2026, so that's coming up. We got a couple more years with those two models.
Seems interesting that they wouldn't have made those hybrid, or at least
They're
one of those.
Getting
hybrid.
rid of all their small cars, Nissan is.
Well, and
It's
their
weird.
biggest truck.
Yeah,
So-
aside from the Titan.
Yeah.
But the
Interesting.
Maxima, the Altima, and the Versa all going away. We all know that Toyota firstly debuted the brand new Land Cruisers. That was an exciting moment. We own a 1987 FJ60 and absolutely love it. I appreciate what they did, the nod to the older model years, but in the mid-90s, I'm sorry, I'm going to get some hate for this, but the Land Cruiser went from the FJ60 and FJ62 were still pretty serious 4x vehicles, and then they went to the Yuppieville. They yuppified it, and they haven't really gone away from it. I appreciate the nod in the new ones to the older FJ60s, essentially.
Well, didn't they do two different headlight styles in those? They did a square and a round, which was kind of cool.
Well, that's your nod to the FJ60 and
I mean,
62. That's the difference between those two models.
They did too.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a friend that rocks one of the 90s models, and it's all-wheel drive, which I find fascinating. But he rocks it. He goes everywhere.
It's not that they're not capable vehicles.
Obviously, it's still a very capable vehicle. But
course.
Yeah, I think the demographic sort of changed. I think they were trying to go to a different demographic.
Well, it's sort of where the whole big SUV phenomenon started.
Well, I think they were trying to go a little bit city with those.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's why I said yuppified.
They're trying to do like a luxury, like a Land Rover.
Yeah.
Is kind of what they were trying to do. I get it, but that's the Land
Well,
Cruiser. It's kind of sad with all of the history of it.
Yeah, the transition of the Land Cruiser, like at a distance, the oldest first models, your FJ40 series and stuff like that, they look like a Jeep.
Oh, they're iconic.
They are iconic.
I love
and
those.
the all the way up to the FJ60s, they sort of kept that iconic look. And then all of a sudden they moved to family mobile, still capable, but it's a family city mobile. It's a soccer mom car.
Well, then I don't know. The 90s was a very weird time in automotive style, in my opinion.
It was.
It's kind of like
I don't want to just pick on Toyota. There's a lot of bad cars in the 90s.
I mean, I don't want to say like too bad of a word here, but I feel like all of the cars are sort of bastardized in the 90s to some extent.
Yeah. Toyota recently also debuted the new Tacoma. That was an exciting moment. Lots of different versions of the Tacoma. All comes with the brand new 4-cylinder turbocharged platform and the 4-cylinder turbocharged hybrid. Over 300 horsepower. I mean, that's impressive. They're quick. They got lots of torque with that electric and with the turbo. They got really good torque. They seem like a very capable vehicle. I'm sad to see the 6-cylinder version go away. The numbers are still there as far as horsepower and torque, but I'm worried about longevity. Like Toyota's name to me is synonymous, and with most mechanics is synonymous with longevity. And I'm sorry, but no turbocharged engine lasts as long as a naturally aspirated engine. It's just not a thing.
Especially not if they're pushing 10,000-mile oil changes. That's
That's a whole nother topic.
Next time.
Tune into the next edition of this podcast for us talking about extended
10,000-mile oil changes.
Yeah, no bueno.
Blah blah blah. Well, and another thing I can touch on really quick with the new Toyota models is they really are starting to see everybody that's doing all this work on their trucks, and I think they're really starting to say, "Oh, there's an opportunity for us to get into this market," and they are partnering with a lot of people doing a lot of cool add-ons. Some of them were kind of weird, like the speaker in the dash.
Yeah, Toyota, what's with the speaker in the dash? Can somebody inform me of this?
I get it, but it really when you go out and I understand we don't like music, but when you go into nature and there's that obnoxious person with a speaker on a hiking trail, Just don't.
Just a hint,
just
folks. If you're the one in nature with a speaker, you're that person. Nobody appreciates you, okay?
Please stop.
Yeah. That's totally
Anyway.
off base. But
Yeah.
anyways, I don't understand the speaker, but some of the new
Some of the
things
stuff is really cool.
some
yeah.
of the add-ons and the features are really freaking cool.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of stoked about the new Tacomas.
I think a lot of people like building their own though. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. Like I know we would. Like
Yep.
prefer
Yeah,
to
well, a
build
lot
our
of
own.
the manufacturers are putting on a lot of these goodies because it already hurts. The truck is expensive as is, and it hurts to add on, like, you do big wheels, tires, lift kit. You got your rock sliders, your protection underneath, all your skid plates. Man, you just dropped another $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 easy on a brand new truck. Ouch.
Well, they just figured out they can sell the truck for $10,000 more with all this extra
Yeah,
stuff.
Yep.
And
Like,
people
wait, people
buy
are
it.
spending this extra money with these other companies. Why can't it be with us?
Yeah. But still, I appreciate the thought rather than it just being like, oh, the Pro Edition's got different wheels, a roof rack, and leather seats. Woohoo.
Yes.
Yeah.
The most exciting new news, I think, is the new 6th Gen 4Runner. Those photos and that was just debuted just recently. So that's pretty cool that the
Yeah.
4Runner's finally got its update. It's been long overdue. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of it. Same thing with the looks of the new Land Cruiser.
I feel like they look kind of cheap. I think maybe it's
Yeah.
because they're trying to go a little more lighter with components.
Mm-hmm.
Like the bumper to me looks super cheap. I'm like, how much of that is metal?
Yeah.
Like, we want metal bumpers.
Yeah,
know?
you're not going to get that.
Yeah, not with a fuel economy trying to keep things light.
Nope.
No, I want a tough vehicle.
Or with safety
yeah.
needs out there too.
Yeah.
Even more on Toyota. Toyota sales are absolutely through the roof. They're catching Tesla, or Tesla is actually dropping off the face of the earth, is more like it. Toyota's been pretty steady, but they're growing. $500 billion for Tesla and $300 billion for Toyota. And they outreach every other manufacturer by far. Those two are leagues above. I think the next one down was Porsche at $89 billion.
Something like that. Yeah.
Big difference.
I didn't realize Porsche had such a high market stake,
Yeah.
honestly. That was
But Tesla,
interesting.
the big thing was that Tesla had almost $1 trillion market lead over Toyota, and they've lost all but like $2 billion of that. That's
Well,
huge.
I think there's probably a bit of controversy with Musk there, and as well as like their Cybertruck thing. I mean, speaking of yuppie car,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, we're not
I
even
think
gonna get into
the
Cybertruck.
concept is really cool, and I love that it looks different. It's not like, oh, it's a hybrid that looks. We thought this would look futuristic, but it's a Prius. No, I mean it looks futuristic, but
Man, I thought the Prius was bad. I teased Toyota, one of my favorite companies, over the Prius, and then Tesla comes out with the Cybertruck. It's like, what is this? Okay.
it looks different though. I can appreciate that. It doesn't look
Yeah.
like everything else, but
Well, and everybody thought stainless wouldn't rust.
depends on the quality,
The
right?
world is learning metallurgy.
Yeah. Where are you sourcing your stainless from?
Yeah. For all the techs out there, a little bit of news, and I know most of us are probably in tune with this at this point, but the National Automotive Service Task Force, NASTF, has made it so that technicians essentially need a security clearance to log into whatever the manufacturer dictates as security sensitive. What we know for sure, that means immobilizers. So your security system won't be able to get into the security system in the car with your scan tool. You're going to have a security clearance and a passcode through them to be able to log in and see data and codes and work with, do actuation tests on the immobilizer module. That's pretty much guaranteed across the board. Same, and if with that immobilizer module goes with cutting keys, all keys lost feature. There's a bunch of stuff that we're missing. I made a little bit of a list here. See what I'm missing.
Which is super fun when it comes to living in a rural area like we do in Bishop, is getting a manufacturer key.
Not easy.
Not easy.
Yeah.
Not easy at all.
Well, I'm finding somebody here that can actually program the key.
Doesn't usually happen. There's
Yeah.
a few that can be
There's a
done at like
couple.
the local hardware store, but even I've had issues like if you have a key, an extra key, they can
Yeah.
usually do another one, but not always. We've
And
had customers
that's-
have issues with
That's
that.
going to end.
Yeah, that's going
So,
to end.
Yeah,
Like
as
not
soon
even
as-
our locksmith can do it.
Yeah.
Like it sucks for the locksmiths too.
It does. So as soon as 45 to 60 days out, this is going to be implemented. We will, if you don't have your security clearance, you will be locked out. So expect I think they were saying the wait time, the processing time for when you get your certificate, get certified to get your password and certification is about 2 weeks, and they're expecting that to be pushed out to about 2 months. So if you haven't done it for your shop, get your shop certified. If you do keys, if you're cutting keys, this is going to stop you dead in your tracks.
Yeah, and it affects your insurance, or
you have to have higher insurance.
Yeah, your insurance aggregate is important to this, which I found interesting.
Yeah, you have to have a certain amount of liability coverage, and then there was something else too. I don't remember the specifics, but so you can look it up online if you need more information.
We think this is another advancement likely towards OBD3, I'm assuming?
It's another... I don't necessarily want to say it's an enhancement towards OBD2 because that's what they've been doing since they can't push OBD2. Since they can't push OBD3, they've just been expanding and enhancing OBD2. This is where Mode 10 and all these other things came into play. But this has been a long time coming, but the implementation is upon us. So if you don't have your security clearance, be ready to not be able to check door locks. Probably the radio. When it comes to our fully electronic cars, probably most everything is safety, security sensitive.
Like when you think of a fully is a big deal.
Exactly. So are they going to lock us out of the high voltage system? Are they going to lock us out of the steering controls when it comes to drive-by-wire? Are we going to be able to check throttle position sensors? Am I going to be able to see that data and look at that? Because you can test that with certain manufacturers allow you to test the accelerator and actually open the throttle body and close the throttle body. Well, with that, you could technically drive and control the car and steal the car. So are they going to lock us out of that? It's up to the OE, to the manufacturer, to decide what is security sensitive. So every manufacturer is going to be different. We don't know what we're going to be locked out of
like
specifically.
The intro of OBD2 altogether, all over again, like where everybody is scrambling to try to figure out this technology. Everybody is doing it different until somebody figured out, okay, this doesn't work.
Okay,
we've got to standardize this so everybody can work on the same thing. Like, this is going to be a mess, I think.
A little bit. I think, again, this has been a long time coming. The news has been out for it. I just caught wind of it not that long ago, but we don't do that many keys, so I'm not surprised I wasn't super honed in on this. But it is important news out there for everybody to know. And even for customers, your favorite shop, if you lose a key, don't be surprised if all of a sudden if they were able to make you a key before, if they can't make you a key now.
When you get a car, when you buy a used car, especially from the dealer... Make sure you get 2 keys with fobs. Seriously. We had a customer recently got a car out of town, and they ended up with only 1 key. A lot of times we have customers that pick up after hours, and we don't have a key box for such a small shop. So a lot of times we lock keys in the car. Not that you can do that as much anymore.
Yeah.
But it's a nice option to have a spare key, or if you have 2 drivers, each person having their own programmed key, like our Acura. When I put in my key, unlock the key with my car, my seat goes to my position. It's kind of nice. Yep. But there's so many reasons just for safety, security, having 2 sets of keys. When we travel, we always take 2 sets of keys for the car.
I've got my keys, you've got your keys.
So if something happens to one of us or one set gets lost, the other person has a set of keys.
Losing a key doesn't stop us.
And they're like, sometimes these programmed fobs are like $1,000.
They're expensive.
So when you get the new car, if it doesn't come with an extra one, say, hey, you should probably take $800 to $1,000 off the price of the car, or give me another fob.
It's a good negotiating point. On a car sale for sure. We're going to wrap this podcast up. We're just going to touch on a couple of the events that are coming up in Bishop. We're a small town, 4,000 people in the city limits, about 10,000 in this area. So when we have car events, I think it's cool, and this is something we really need to foster. So I want to get this news out there. For majority of the world out there, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. But you could come check out Bishop. Wink, wink. It's pretty awesome. We do some pretty cool things. We got beautiful mountains. It's a gorgeous area. And we have some pretty cool car stuff.
Yeah, we're trying to keep it alive because a lot of it's still the classic car scene, which is awesome, but that's sort of dying away with that generation. And our generation, unfortunately, can't afford classic cars. So the demographics changing.
We know that the Owens Valley Cruisers is doing their event. That was sort of up in the air, so that's good news, Bishop. Owens Valley Cruisers is holding their Fall Colors car show again. Actually, I don't know if the Owens Valley Cruisers are doing it. I think the city did officially take over, but the car show is happening.
Yeah.
It's not dead. We were worried that it was going to be dead in the water. We were going to lose that classic car show, the biggest, best classic car show that Bishop has.
Really awesome.
We were scared that it was going to go away. Officially, it's happening. I think the city took over control. we're going to have our fall colors
Yeah.
car show. I'm excited for
And
that.
we'll talk about dates of that closer to the event, but I
we'll
think it's
talk about those dates.
October,
Yeah,
but
second week in October
something
normally,
like
I think.
that. And they did add a class last year or the year before, I believe, for different types of cars other
Yes.
than just
Classics.
75 and older or whatever. Yeah.
That concludes this podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's available everywhere that you get your favorite podcast. And it's hosted, thankfully, by Eastern Sierra Now. We're part of the Eastern Sierra Now podcast family. So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. And we'll be back. If you have things you want us to talk about, topics you want us to touch on, just leave a comment in the video or message us somewhere. And we'll try our best to come up with some content and talk about it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. We look forward to spreading more information when we get this online. If there's anything you'd like to hear about or about us, about the industry, about our shop, about anything, drop it in the comments.
Yep.
We love to expand on more of what you guys want to hear.
Yep. Thank you all, and we'll catch you next podcast.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.